All right, everybody, welcome to episode 23 of the Different Animals podcast. It's your boy Tyler.
And I'm Ever Castro.
And today we are going to talk about what we've been watching. We're going to talk about the Lakers winning the finals. Which another thing I'm excited about that is that we missed a recording session, so this is as close to recording and release as it's ever gonna get. This is like the best sports talk you're ever gonna get as far as being like close to when it happened. So the Lakers winning the title, and Microsoft buying Bethesda, which I think we said we were going to talk about before, and then
the last 2 weeks
didn't hit it, just fucking whiffed. Like the NHL season because nobody paid attention. Woo! All right, and then possibly just a couple, some movie related news. But first. All right, so let's start with what we've been watching as per usual. Where are you at with The Boys?
Yeah, so I finished The Boys this week. Season 2, finally finished it a couple days ago. And it was pretty good. I mean, the ending, it ended strong. I'm not going to spoil anything in case anybody wants to watch it, but I definitely recommend it. It was only 8 episodes, and they flew by. Like I said, I think last week I was in, 3 or 4, and I was like, holy shit, we're already halfway through. But I like where they went with the villains. I like where they went with the plot twists, and the season ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger, which gets you excited for season 3. Right. But yeah, I really, really liked it. I definitely recommend it. Especially it just moves quickly and it's not a slog, and yeah, it's all around really good.
Awesome. Like I said, it's one of those things that's always looked good to me. I just never have Amazon Prime, so it's just like on the list. One day I'll get it, but I don't know. I don't know when it's gonna happen.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, recommend it. It's worth it. I would say. I think it's worth it if you want to get it for for shipping, but then also for the show. And then I think what other show was on there that I watched? I think The Wire was on there, but there was another show on Amazon Prime that I watched earlier this year that I really enjoyed, and it's blanking on me. But anyway, so I did have a couple of thoughts on it. Okay. So it was good, but they focus on they focus on a lot of characters, because there's like the heroes, like the quote superheroes, and there's like 7 of them, and then there's also like I think 3 or 4 of our actual heroes, like our protagonists, and for the most part they are together, but then there's some episodes where they aren't, and so the show ends up doing kind of like a Game of Thrones thing, but whereas Game of Thrones would do maybe 3 or 4 characters in each episode, and they would sort of round roulette it, and there would never be an episode where that had all of the characters. Right. This one doesn't do that. It sort of feels obligated to check in on every single one in the episode, so it ends up sort of never.
I feel like at that point you like kind of lose time, really, because maybe we want to check in on this character just so you see them, but like they don't really have anything to do just yet, so you just kind of like lose some time that you could have been spending like developing something else a little better, maybe.
Yeah. And so you end up, instead of putting like if it's a car ride they actually go to Raleigh, North Carolina, or Gardner, I think in one part, and so that episode does it well because it's the whole trip takes place in one episode. But like in another one, it would be like, oh, you got to go over here, and then in the next episode, it's like, no, we're over here. Whereas you could just done it in one. And then what that also does is that not all of the characters are that interesting. So I was watching it, the penultimate episode of the season with my friend Andy, and we both were sort of going through and be like, oh, here you go, another Becky scene. Okay, let's just check our phones. And we sort of lined up on the same characters in terms of which ones were like, all right, it's a
Isn't
Becky
that the
scene.
Worst? Isn't that the fucking worst? And I'm trying to think of a show it's happened to me in, but it's like, you're watching a show, and you're like, the show's great, and then there's just like, a couple characters that every time they spend time on them, you're like, I need you to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know what it is? I can't name the exact, like, series or episode or anything. It happens a lot in anime, which is that, like, basically what happens is, the mangas are out, like the graphic novels or comics, however you want to look at it, they're based off of, and eventually the anime will catch up faster than the books just by virtue of the medium.
Mm-hmm.
And they will have to do filler episodes, which are basically shit that isn't in the comics at all. So it's usually like a whole episode that's like dedicated to some side characters doing some shit that doesn't interfere with the story at all. Right? Because you want this filler to be in place, but you don't want it to like really like, it's not canon, so you could just completely blow up the main story and then just act like it didn't happen, but that's not really good either. So they'll spend whole episodes with like 3 characters and they'll give a shit about doing something that's not important, and like I can't, like I just won't watch the episode. It's like why am I gonna waste my time with this shit? Like,
right, exactly, yeah.
Like it'll be like 3 characters that like aren't important, and their whole thing will be like, we're gonna have a fun vacation day, and I'm like, get this shit out of my face, bro. Like, I don't want any of this.
And then the mark of a good show would be that you take those characters that you originally didn't give a shit about and make them good and stuff. Like Breaking Bad. Like I thought that about Hank. I was like, the first like season and a half of Hank, I was just like, what a fucking blowhard, get this guy off my TV, he sucks. But then of course, there's something happens to him about halfway through the series and you're like, holy shit. And then from then on, he's as interesting, and he's like right there with Walt and Jesse and Gus.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, like, even just because of the relationship between the books and the TV, like, the reason that the TV show or the animes will have to do the filler episodes is because they don't want to, like, there's been one anime I know of called Full Metal Alchemist. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They have 2 versions of it. It's Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And basically what happened is Full Metal Alchemist came out first. And it came out while the manga was still being written. So, like, so much of it had already been written. They caught up. And then they're like, well, they're taking too long to write it. So we're just going to basically go off script and make our own ending. kind of like Game of Thrones. Like Game of Thrones caught up to the books, and then we're like, we have to make our own ending. The difference is that George R.R. Martin was still there, and like, this is generally what I want to happen. But in this case, it wasn't. Yeah. So I'm going to spoil the ending of Full Metal Alchemist, the first one, because 1, it's not the one you should watch. You should not watch Full Metal Alchemist. You should watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Okay.
So I'm going to spoil the Full Metal Alchemist. I'm going to spoil it, but I'm going to spoil it in a way that you're just going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because it's the world doesn't, like, it's not our world, right? Like, he's literally got like a metal arm that he can turn into a blade with like this magical power of what they call alchemy. Is like, bro, the series ends and my man becomes an astronaut. My man has been out here trying to, the first thing that happens in it, right, is that their brother, so it's Edward, the main character, his brother is in a suit of armor. He tried to bring his dead mother back with alchemy, but there's a law of equivalent exchange, which is that you have to give up equal value for what you're bringing back. And the idea is obviously, like, a lot of it is just like, what is the human soul worth? You know what I mean? Right. Like, bringing a living person back requires some immense amount of exchange, and it goes wrong. My man becomes an astronaut. That's how it starts. By trying to bring his dead mother back. It ends with him being an astronaut. It was the most dog shit thing. I was so fucking mad, bro. I was so mad. It ruined the whole show. Because, like, the whole show is about this. And then all of a sudden, like, he's like, but what if I get in a rocket and go to the stars? And I'm like, eat shit. Like, why did you do this to me? So, like, that's why animes will do manga, so they don't do that. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood it came out later. It shortens, like, up until the point where Full Metal Alchemist reached the end of what had been written. It condenses that, so you're not having to watch all of it again as much. And then it does the actual ending that was in the manga. And I've heard that one's great. But because of my frustration with the first one, I haven't watched the good one. It's left such an awful taste in my mouth, bro. Because I know he doesn't become an astronaut, but it doesn't matter. So, yeah. But anyways, a good anime, like, even those side characters that have that shitty episode where nothing matters, they will still be interesting, much like Hank in Breaking Bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like the filler episodes because they can't alter the plot and they just need to fill in space to give the writers time to get further ahead again. It's just like, I just gotta watch these fucking two assholes, like, thumb wrestle all day.
Yeah,
Like,
just,
it's just fucking nonsense, bro.
They're just like putting the track down as the train goes.
The closest...
Like the fucking Wallace and Gromit.
Right. The closest thing to an episode like that I can come up with Breaking Bad, and it's not even a good comparison, but the Fly episode. Because nothing really happens in the Fly episode, right?
I love the Fly episode.
Oh, it's great. It's the best version of that. But, like, realistically, you don't get anything out of... Like, the plot didn't advance at all. It's just, like, characterization, really.
Yeah.
So, like, it's that, but, like, bad.
But, like, bad because it's, like, you don't give a shit about the two people in there.
Right. So, yeah. So, fuck anime and fillers, and fuck... sorry, this all came about because we're talking about the boys having to check in on characters that no one gives a shit about. So, I derailed us super hard on that.
Yeah.
But anyways, sorry.
No, that was just my point. Is that sometimes, you know, if you do that and all the characters aren't awesome and you don't condense it, then you're sort of like, okay, like, you know, you need to be a bit better about writing your show. But other than that, I mean,
yeah,
just
like everyone has to be doing something interesting every time if we're going to check in on these people like every single episode.
Right. But I'm okay with it because it doesn't overstay its welcome, or nothing gets too
boring because it's not a whole episode.
Exactly. Especially, I think the 8 episodes is perfect. I think if it was a fucking Netflix show, it would have been like 13, like all those Marvel ones they used to have, and it would have just been like...
It'd have been a lot more of that.
Slog to fucking get through. But
how many of those Marvel ones did you watch?
I watched Daredevil season 1 and 2, and that's it.
Okay. I know people were like... I feel like I remember people saying that Luke Cage's was good. But I watched like one action scene and I was like, can't, dog. This is the worst shit I've ever seen in my life.
The only thing I remember about the Daredevils is that each season had this long like take where he would just like beat the shit out of guys in like a hallway. But like that's it. And then I don't know. I never had
But at least the action was like good. The Luke Cage one was not, bro. My man showed up for 0 days of training on choreography of that shit.
But now we're gonna get the real Marvel shows in Disney Plus.
Exactly, that's them high budget joints.
Yeah.
Oh God, you know who they should have got to play Luke Cage? Should have got a Busta Rhymes so he could do his Halloween fucking.
I feel so bad for the people who were in those Marvel shows, like Vincent D'Onofrio, he played Kingpin, and Charlie Cox, he played Daredevil, because both of them, like, they still are so excited about the characters, but Kevin Feige fucking hates those Marvel shows, so they're never gonna be in the MCU. So even though Vincent D'Onofrio's like, hey, I've been in movies, put me in there as Kingpin in Spider-Man 3. No way. Which kind of sucks for them.
Cut that shit the fuck off.
Yeah. Kevin Feige's like fucking. Because I think those were greenlit. I think like 2015 or just before, but they were greenlit like when he didn't have total control of MCU like he does now. So I think like somebody was just like, put him on TV. Like, who gives a shit? We're like, strike while the iron's hot without really thinking about the consequences of the stories and shit.
Right.
That's why you see like shit about like Iron Man and Thor and shit in the shows, but they don't reciprocate the relationship.
Never. What the one, you know what's funny is that like those to me like were never really I didn't care about those either way because I was like, these are kind of just separated off. Like in my head when they came out, I was like, these are a separate thing because it's characters we've never seen before.
Yeah,
like they're not going to be in the next releases. You know what I mean? Like whatever. These are just their own separate thing that have Marvel licensing and are occurring simultaneously with the movies. The Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. shit was the most, like, I never even remotely tried to watch that. I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're doing, but this is nonsense. Like,
yes, I never gave them a chance. You brought back
the one character
I didn't want to give them a chance.
who had, like, an emotional death, and they're like, look, here's a whole show now that we had, like, one of good... Because the death was well written. Like, you legitimately felt bad when he died. Yeah. I don't know the character's name. I don't know the actor's name. What's the actor's name? Do you know?
Actor's name is Clark Gregg.
Okay, well, Clark Gregg, he dies, and you're like, oh, that was the best a death could be in a movie like that for a relative nobody.
Yeah.
And they were like, let's do a whole spin-off, and I was like, fuck this, bro. Get this shit.
and
Got that shit the fuck off.
They fucking had like 100 episodes. Or
I
close to
know! Every time that like I would go over to my in-laws' house, they'd be watching basic cable, and it would be like, catch the new episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm like, dog, it's been 4 years. What?
I'm like,
Where's
what
this
the
still
fuck?
going?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yo,
I never
they
gave this a
doubled down
chance.
on that shit like Disney doubled down on Avatar, bro. They're like, give me 5 more seasons, bro. Of this one tertiary character who's dead.
Doing the only thing that I remember, like, that
doing knockoff Avengers. Like, I feel like Quicksilver was maybe in it once or something.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that I think the one time that I think I ever really wanted to give a fuck or even give it a chance was right at the when the episodes were coming around. When Civil War came out, because you know the whole thing is that Hydra's been inside of Shield the whole time.
Yeah,
and so
which, by the way, I love Civil War. It's a great movie. The handshake Hail Hydra thing, like the handshake whisper Hail Hydra, like it's the most over the top shit. It's so stupid.
It's that good, like it's that good comic book shit.
Yeah, it's just there's like 4 other dudes standing around. They're like Hail Hydra, and like no one heard it. They just, I guess it is comic book shit, but it was just weird to see it in the movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like depicted that way. Like they could have just made it more discreet. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
a weird, like hand signal or a
something.
Yeah, exactly. But no, they legit handshake like Hail Hydra, and I was like, get out of here, bro.
But but then it pays off in Endgame when they're in the elevator.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which was a great scene.
Mm-hmm. So
you were saying,
sorry,
you were saying you were interested in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when that was happening.
Oh, just because they were like, oh shit's going down, but that's it. It like when the meter went up for like a split second, and then I was like, oh wait, no.
So they addressed that stuff in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show.
Yeah, apparently like the fallout, but I actually do think it's kind of cool that the fallout was happening that same week. So the movie comes out like on a Friday, and then the next Wednesday's episode is reacting to the movie that just came out the Friday before. So I did think that was cool.
That is dope. That's great timing.
But I was like, oh, cool. But then I realized, oh wait, I
ain't
want
trying to watch this fucking shit.
Yeah.
I ain't trying to watch this low budget garbage. Mm-hmm. Like knock off fucking CSI. Oh god. All right. So that's what you've been watching.
Yeah. What have you been watching? Yeah.
I have watched maybe 2 more episodes of Avatar. I'm just fucking slogging through it. Mm-hmm. No, that's not true. I watched 3 episodes in one night because shit got lit, and I don't remember exactly what was happening. It had something to do with. I was literally gonna be like, it had something to do with like Zuko, Azula, and Aang, and it's like those are all the characters, so that's not useful. And the new Earthbender that's teaching Aang.
Toph.
Yep. And Uncle Iroh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Either way, Iroh. They all kind of get intertwined for a second, and. What was it? There was... the stuff about Zuko as a kid was legitimately depressing.
Shit.
It was so sad.
I didn't realize that was in season 2. I thought that was season 1, but yep.
Yeah, oh my god, that is brutally sad. Also, signature hallmark of an anime. All animes are sad, bro. Doesn't matter. There is going to be some utterly depressing shit in any anime you ever watch, I promise. It's going to be nothing but roses and fairies, bro, for 99% of the episodes. And then you're going to get an episode where it's like 3 main characters, all their parents are dead, and like all their siblings are dead, and everyone's crying together. And you're just going to be fucking destroyed for an episode. And that's what happened in that episode of Avatar with his family and him as long. I was like, all we've done is just like fight for the past few episodes, and it's like, oh, by the way, here's your sad episode. Like,
yeah,
thanks.
the what is it called? The Omnikai, where you have to fight.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, there was that. Wait, I didn't get that yet.
Oh,
I mean, that's not a spoiler because they do plenty of those already. But like, it's more about him and his sister's relationship and their mom. You know, maybe I'm not sure what the mom situation is. I just know she's not around.
Mm-hmm.
I think at this point they've basically told him that she went to the store for cigarettes and never came back.
She went for fire cigarettes.
Yo, not just the regular cigarettes. She didn't need to get a lighter because she keeps those on deck. But yeah, so I watched some episodes of Avatar. And then I did something I never do, which is I started a second show at the same time, which is I watched the first episode of The Cabin. That's Bert Kreischer, not super crazy about, but he has his moments. Tom Segura, who I'm a huge fan of. And then they had Joey Diaz in the first episode because they're all friends in LA. And it was pretty good. It's not really like anything serious. It's just basically them hanging out and like hijinks ensue. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, so is it like a talk show or like a comedy show or?
It's more like a comedy show than a talk show. Like it's the what's the word I'm looking for here? The premise is that like Bert is like out of control. He parties too much. He needs to go get in this cabin to relax and like, you know, just get his life under control. But then he has friends come every episode. So like the first episode was Tom Segura and Joey Diaz. I know there's an episode with like Caitlyn Jenner and Nikki Glazer. There's an episode with Donnell Rawlings, who is Ashley Larry.
Oh yeah.
And Bobby Lee, who he has a couple pretty big podcasts, but he also was like realistically most well known for Mad TV. But I haven't watched any of those, just the first episode, and that's the one with Tom Segura and Joey Diaz, and it was pretty good. There were some funny parts, obviously, because they're all comedians, and like there was a little bit of like seriousness to it, but mostly it was just them joking around. But like those are the podcasts I like listening to anyway, so it was just cool to watch like a 22-minute show of them just hanging out and dicking around.
Oh, cool. Nice,
also, it's only 22 minutes, so it's like it's not a big commitment or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna ask if it was a half hour or an hour show, but yeah, that sounds pretty cool. It's like a mix. I guess not a talk show, but just like a mix of like, hey, like let's hang out. And or do they play themselves, like the people who visit?
They're just them. Like Bert's just like, I'm Bert and I party a lot and now I need to calm down, and that's like, you know, it's like he has his actual wife on. You know what I mean? It's just them talking. Like it's all the comedians that just already talk, just basically hanging out and dicking around with like in dumb scenarios.
Nice. And it's on Netflix, right?
You said? It is on Netflix.
Cool.
So definitely check that out if you're interested in that. If you like any of the comedians, like I definitely don't think there's any through lines. So like if there's an episode with comedians you like, probably just watch that one. Would be my guess. Like you don't need to watch all of them.
And it sounds like shit. What was I gonna say? You're saying it doesn't have to be like a good fall show, you know, like a cabin. It's like, you know, nobody goes, you know, I'm sure it might not be during the fall, but falls in my mind are like cabin,
right?
Thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It was.
Cool.
It was. Pretty good. So, we'll go from that to something we've both watched, which is that the Lakers won the NBA championship. And I will say that I've never been more fucking terrified in my life because the Lakers were up, 2-0? No, they were up 2-0 when I made the declaration that Lakers have this shit under wrap in the podcast. I was like, because they're just going to dominate the Heat. Because it was like Dragic and Bam weren't going to play in Game 3. And I was like, they're going to win Game 3. Then they're going to be up 3-0. It's going to be a wrap. The very first thing that happens, like literally the next day after I said that recording, was that Jimmy Butler went the fuck off.
Oh,
and
for
like
the 40
led
triple-double?
Yes. And fucking just single-handedly won the Heat the game. I was like, great. Now they're like an asshole. Then the Lakers won, and I was like, okay, I'm good. They're up 3-1. And then Jimmy Butler again played 47 minutes, went super fucking hard, looked like he was about to die on the court with how tired he was, and it was 3-2. And I was like, please, God, do not let this blow up in my face. Like, the first major sports prediction I make on this podcast is like, the Lakers definitely have it in the bank, and just fucking trash, bro. Like,
and I mean, like, yeah, like, I watched the ending of that game, was it Game 5? Right? Yeah, Game 5.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they're it's like fucking just haymakers, dude. You know, LeBron gets a basket, then Jimmy, and then, you know, he gets a foul, and then he gets fouled, and they're fucking making their free throws, and Maybe the Lakers had a chance at the end, and then
Yeah.
Danny Green
And then Danny
blew
Green
it.
bricked the most wide open three of all time. And then
I was literally like, dude, like, because people have been shitting on him for a while. He played
Right.
well in the regular season, but in the playoffs, he was kind of shitty.
Right.
And so
then
when
they
he gets
passed
that
him
ball,
the ball, and you were like, "You're gonna make me look bad, Danny Green. I know it."
I was just like, please, Danny, make this, redeem yourself. And then he
that
fucking
man
bricks it.
Yeah. Here's the deal: didn't he like barely reach the rim? My man, like, barely got there. Like, it took every ounce of strength to not airball that from Danny Green.
And I mean, it's what.
Oh, go ahead.
It's what Bomani Jones calls lemon booty.
Yeah, it absolutely was lemon booty. And then from there, they get the rebound, and I'm like kind of rooting for the Heat. Like, I want LeBron to win the next ring, but like I do really like Jimmy Butler. They're the blatant underdog. Everyone likes rooting for an underdog. You know what I mean? So it was like I still wanted it to be close, and it would be cool even if even if it came down to Game 7, and I was like, maybe I want LeBron to win. Like, I still wanted it to get there. You know what I mean? Because I do like the Heat.
Yep.
And then the Lakers get the rebound. And I was like, oh no, they're gonna like just overpower, like score inside just on a scramble.
Mm-hmm.
And then Markieff, right? Is he the one on the Lakers, or is it Marcus?
I think it's Markieff.
I think it's Markieff.
Yeah.
Markieff throws the worst pass I've ever seen in my life. That man overshoots Anthony Davis, who is 7 foot tall, with arms longer than anybody I've ever seen. He overthrows him by like 8 feet and just launches it straight out of bounds at the speed of a Brett Favre laser, bro.
Honestly, when you were saying that, I was like, what are you talking about? I completely forgot about that. In my mind, which kind of sucks for Danny, I was like, Danny bricked it and the time just ran out.
No, someone else made a just as awful play right afterwards. Because if you go back and look, Anthony Davis has a mismatch and is holding his arm up to just get it lobbed anywhere near the basket, and he can dunk it. And my man launches it out of bounds at the speed of light.
And then to his back, like right to his right, a little bit back, LeBron James is open.
Right
inside the key.
Oh, God.
Right inside the 3-point line. Yeah, and then he just goes, oh, my bad. Which I kind of get, because, like, I think...
It's a scramble anyways. Like,
yeah, I think if you have the ball and you're the guy, or, you know, the second guy, like, if you're Anthony Davis and you have the ball with, like, 5 seconds, you're going up, right? Same thing with LeBron, unless he's in a situation where he was, like, the one that he was, where he was, like, 3 guys on him and he can just kick it out. But in a mad scramble, if you're not the guy, you're not taking that shot because you don't want to get chewed out, but then you're also like panicking trying to find out where to go, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm Markieff,
it's lemon booty. It's
oh my God, I mean,
lemon booty.
Exactly. He's like, there's 3 seconds to go. I cannot be the motherfucker who takes this because I will get destroyed by LeBron and by everybody else.
But see, that's lemon booty, because if you were like, I can just take this open layup, like I can take like one step forward and have a decent layup. If you're the guy that even is the 4th string and you make that, bro, set for life. Set for life. Like, that's what fucking Ray Allen did. You know what I mean? The Chris Bosh rebound to like one step and then shoot right as the buzzer comes down.
But I think that's different.
That was legendary. It's different because Ray Allen was at one point like an all-star.
Right. I think
Markieff Morris has never been anything more than like a role player.
Right. He was still like, even though he was with the Heat, he was still, you know, relatively pretty good, right? Like he wasn't washed, but he had been the guy and he'd been a part of a big 3. But I think if you're Markieff, you're just roll. You're just like a roll guy. It's like an Avery Bradley taking that shot, or fucking Dante DiVincenzo taking that shot, or
what about Robert Horry?
Yeah, but the thing with Robert Horry, I think is probably he thought he was the guy, or he thought he saw himself as the guy, probably mentally, and he was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm making this."
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's lemon booty. That's lemon booty. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Robert Horry was like, "Fuck it, I'm shooting this, bro," and was the man. You know what I mean? And it's not like he was. Nobody ever once thought Robert Horry was one of the best players on the team. Exactly. You know what I mean? No one was ever like, you know who we should probably get this last shot to? Robert Horry.
Exactly. And then 7 rings later, he's like, I guess I didn't do too bad.
Exactly. But yeah, so forced lemon booty, but the Lakers did clinch it. That last game was a fucking blowout, and I can't blame the Heat for that. I mean, like, Jimmy Butler put in 47, like, he only rested for 45 seconds of a game.
Yeah.
He was in for 47 minutes and 15 seconds of a game, an NBA game, like, and it went all out. So, like, obviously, I just don't think you can do that like
2 days later.
Yeah, and 2 days later be like at 100% or ready to go.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have some people holding some weight around you at that point.
Exactly. Especially when AD and LeBron, I think, were averaging something like 30 minutes the most of the playoffs, right? And I'm sure Jimmy was fucking playing.
Oh yeah, Jimmy was probably putting in real solid. I think they said he was averaging like 43.
Yeah,
all playoffs.
Yeah, off the playoffs. Yeah. So if you're doing that, and LeBron is doing 30, and then AD is doing maybe like 32 or 33, then by the time you get to the end, you start to see the dividends of that, right?
Right. Yeah, and the answer though isn't that like, oh, Jimmy should have rested more. Like, he couldn't have. They would not have made it because
he doesn't have. Yeah, right.
So yeah. So what do we? Just to go over this real quick. So what do we think this does for LeBron's legacy?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, he was already, I thought he was already the GOAT. I mean, even before this. I think going to 3 teams, 3 finals MVP, first person to do that. I think people who maybe were on the fence, maybe were more on the fence, or they're more 50-50 maybe towards LeBron. And then if you're an MJ guy, no matter what, there's no way you can't say this guy isn't like top 5, right?
Here's the thing. I think if you understand basketball at any level, right? Like any level. I think if you're an asshole that just like wants to be an asshole, it's different. But I think if you're trying to make a legitimate case, I don't think any MJ GOAT fans will say you're stupid for saying LeBron's the GOAT. Like, I think they would disagree, and I think you'd be like, I understand what you're saying, but I disagree, and here's why. And you know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine... Yo, there are people out there that legitimately like, LeBron sucks. I'm like, you're just dumb. That's not a valid standpoint in any regard. Like, I don't care what era he's in. I don't care what you think of basketball right now. Like, to just be like, he's not good. Or like, he's not even if you say like, he's not in the debate, you're just dumb. So like, to me, like, maybe, I don't know that this swings anybody. I feel like if you're an MJ guy, you're just going to keep being an MJ guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think if you're a LeBron guy, this just helps your LeBron guy thing. I think it's just going to be, you are who you are, really, at the end of the day. Maybe not this ring. Maybe if LeBron reels off like 2 or 3 more, then like now it starts to get, what I mean? Now,
if it's 5, if you tie Jordan, if he gets 2 more by some miracle, right? Or even 1 more, 5.
But you say by some miracle. I don't think it's like that much of a reach.
I know, but it's just, it's hard. Like, it would have to be a 3-peat or close to it. I mean, if he's going to be 36 in December, at the end of December. If he was maybe 32, I'd be like, oh yeah, he's got time. Mm-hmm. But I think it's kind of one of those things where it's like, right now you're operating on like the wire, right? On a wire's edge. You have to like, everything has to go perfectly. You have to win, because a wasted year is just, it hurts more than a wasted year, 15 years
in your early 20s. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's why earlier when the pandemic started, I was like, that's right. I mean, I know there's way
we were
more
like, this isn't important, but also like,
but also missing out on like a year of what appears to be continuously the longest peak in the world, peak LeBron, is painful. So I'm glad he won that. But
like right now, I think we're not on the top of Mount Everest, right? Like the peak has already happened, but like we're still definitely in the range where people die from lack of oxygen. Like
exactly, it is a plateau. It is not Mount Everest. It is like Mount Everest plateau. It's like if it just went on and maybe like inclined a little bit down, because the man put up.
I believe that's called a decline.
He averaged what, like 30 or close to 30, like something like 8 and 8 on shooting like 59% from the field. Like that's insane. Like that's like,
yeah, that is insane.
I think
bro, this is the same thing I say every time. But like no one ever looked at Dwayne Wade's career and was like, wow, his career was cut short. My man turned into a role player and went and played in Chicago and then retired. And LeBron is still out here being the best player on the floor in the finals and was drafted at the same fucking time.
And even if you go, well, D Wade went to college, it's like, well, 3 years ago, Dwayne Wade was washed. Still in 2017.
Right. And same thing with Melo. It's not like, you know what I mean? No one's like, wow, Melo's career was really cut short. Melo spent 1 year in college. It's only a 1 year difference. But yeah, so LeBron's legacy, I think all right, so realistically, what do you think of the chances he could reel off 2 more before he retires?
I think I'm going to say 66, 2 2/3. I think 66% chance that he wins 2 more. And if he ties him, and he ties him, but then he has every single statistic category better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that mean? You know?
Yeah, the argument will then, of course, be the era that he played. You know what I mean? Which isn't to say that LeBron wouldn't be great. Like, LeBron would be great in Jordan's era. But, like, realistically, like, if Jordan was playing today and Jordan had grew up today where three-point shooting was more emphasized, like, maybe Jordan's points scored are a lot higher. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, all that aside, so you're saying 66% chance he wins 2 more? So what would you put your chance he only wins 1 more? Because, like, that's got to be
80?
Higher than... That's super
80?
high. Whew!
Maybe next year. I mean, the only thing I think, like, unless he has a dramatic drop-off, I mean, Anthony Davis is re-signing. If some role guys leave, hopefully he has a pretty good eye for finding role players. I mean, clearly.
Yeah.
You know, Gerald Green, I think, is going to become available, and plays like shit, but then when, LeBron makes everybody better. So I think it's not too crazy to think that they'll be tested a little bit more next year. Definitely. But if most of the people are going to stay and they have them through contract at least 1 or 2 more years, unless, the older guys don't drop off precipitously, like fucking, like, just off of a cliff. I mean, I see them.
But 80% though, so you think if they run next year 5 times, like if we ran a simulation next year 5 times, you think 4 of them LeBron would win? There's only 1 time he wouldn't win?
I think so. I mean, who in the West? I mean, the Warriors will be back, but they don't have. I mean, Draymond isn't the exact same Draymond. I'm not saying that he's fallen off, but he's not the same from a couple years ago.
Right. But
Steph and Clay are still there. I guess the Suns will make some noise. The Nuggets will make some noise.
The Clippers will still be the Clippers.
The Clippers will be fucking shitty Clippers.
Hey, they still have Kawhi, a guy that makes a lot of bad commercials. But, like, I mean, you still have Kawhi who can do a lot by himself. In the East, you're going to have the Heat possibly healthy with Bam and, Dragic healthy or a different point guard situation. But, like, you got to remember, I mean, the Heat won 2 games with one with no Bam or Dragic and one with, like, hobbled Bam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That team could be a problem next year, too. Out of the East, you have
Bucks.
The Bucks, yep. The Nuggets could get better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's more likely than not. Let's put it this way. But I just think there's too many variables in the course of a season to put anybody's chances that high. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah. I just think, yeah. I mean, like, but you could say that, I guess for me, I think Anthony Davis is just so good, and LeBron is so good that I think it's kind of like going into the 2018, 2017, like those Warriors years, right? It's like,
right.
Yeah, there could be other teams, and I think other teams will push them, but I think in the end, I think there's just too much talent there to pass up, and
I say realistically a 60% chance they win 1 more, and then a 35-40% chance he wins 2 more. Because, like, 35-40% still means, like, it's almost a coin flip that he wins 2 more championships.
2 more. Oh, it'd be so sweet if he got 6.
Let's put it this way. The Heat with him, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade went 2 for 3. You know what I mean?
2 for 4.
2 for 4, you're right. So, like, I don't know that I'd give the Lakers that much better of a chance than the Heat.
Yeah.
Especially because there wasn't, like... It's not like the Spurs or the Mavs were, like, god-tier teams. You know what I mean? Like, the Mavs had a great run and the Spurs are solid. But, anyways, so this definitely helps AD's legacy way more than LeBron's, though. Because LeBron's already has enough. AD, this is, like, a big deal for him.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the start. I mean, he is 27. So he has 13-ish, maybe more years to go, which he can win, fucking 3 or 4 more. And he's got that monkey off his back, right? Like, now he's one of the all-time greats, and it doesn't have to be Dirk at 36 or whatever being like, he's one of the all-time greats, but, or, like a Russ or a Harden being like, these guys, I mean, this guy's running the league, but,
Right, but he cracks in the playoffs every single time.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's gone too. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's like, I forget who won early on. It's kind of like LeBron after his first one. It's like, you got it. That thing is gone. So even if you don't win anymore, I think you're already one of the all-time greats.
Right, and well, for me, the bigger example of that for LeBron would be the one in Cleveland, because like people were gonna discount the ones in Miami as like him, but then he went to Cleveland, and it was like, nah, you really like that one was you put in a lot of work on that one. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, either way, I agree. The same thing goes for Anthony Davis now. Um, here's the deal though. What if what if LeBron gets to the point like, all right, let's say he's 38, 39, right?
Yep.
And he's not.
Yep.
He's starting to decline, visibly decline, like pretty obviously, and to the point where you're like kind of iffy about whether he should retire. What if he pulls the fucking Vince Carter, bro, and just goes to the bench and is the best six man to ever play the game, and AD is out here just dunking on everyone's head, and he gets like 2 more rings, just
And
as
he
like
gets-
a bench dude, like a bench veteran who's just out here being the best six man he can be.
The
Could
fucking
you
just like a
imagine?
Jason Kidd thing,
Right?
you know.
Could you imagine?
I do think his game does evolve more. He probably doesn't. He probably goes from 3-point line to 3-point line going forward, or maybe the year after, or maybe 2 years from now. And he just gets like
and then like on mismatches he'll post like a small guy, but I think
Right.
that's like what it will come down to.
yeah. I mean, he'll be like 18. He'll probably average like 18 and like 15 assists, right? Like
Right.
because he averaged I think close to 10 or 10 this year. So there's no reason to think that he won't be like, an 18-point game and 12 18, 9 and 12, right?
Right.
But it'd be, I mean, if he could play it as long as Vince Carter did, man, like that would be so cool. He would definitely break the all-time scoring record by then.
Yeah.
I think we have maybe 2 or 3 more years before he hits that.
Right.
So that'll be exciting. But yeah.
Yeah, that would be dope. So we'll go ahead and cut the basketball talk for now.
Yep.
But the last thing I want to talk about, which we're finally going to get to, is Microsoft buying Bethesda. So for people that aren't super familiar, I would say Bethesda's biggest game of all time is Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, which has for some reason continued to get ported and remastered and remade over and over and over and over and over again, and it's like way over the top. A good example of that is the fact that they are making GTA 5 for the PS5. And
For the
Xbox
PS5,
One.
yes.
And I was like, I had that shit on my Xbox 360, bro. Why are we still making this?
Exactly.
That's
yeah,
what Skyrim...
I mean,
Skyrim was doing that before GTA 5 was a thing.
and it kind of do like I've been playing some open world games, and I played Spider-Man, right? 2018 Spider-Man. And I'm playing it, and I'm like, so this is good, right? The people feel alive. But this still feels not quite where Grand Theft Auto 5 is. And that shit came out 7 years ago. 5 years before the Spider-Man game. So it just shows you sort of like what a absolute just benchmark of gaming that game is. And how alive it feels. And how old it is at this point, right?
Right, but let it die. I'm ready to let that motherfucker die. Like, I don't know why we're bringing it... Bro, it came out at the end of the 360, so let's say it was out on 360 for like a year.
Yeah.
The PS4 lasted for 7 years, so we're now 8 years into this motherfucker, and you're like, we're making another one. It's like, oh, Grand Theft Auto 6? It's like, no, another Grand Theft Auto 5. Bro, get out of here.
It actually hit, it hit its 7th anniversary last month. Mid-September 2013, that's when it came out.
Get that shit out of here, bro. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. But anyways, Bethesda makes Fallout. I want to say the thing is they actually, I think technically they didn't just buy out Bethesda. I think they bought out the parent company that Bethesda is a part of. So I think they got like Doom in part of that deal.
Wolfenstein.
Yeah, they got a few bigger
Fallout.
names. Yeah, Fallout, but that's a Bethesda one that I forgot about. But they got a few studios that are pretty big names. And you sent me a link to an article about, basically how the article was saying that, Xbox has moved away from the traditional console model, I guess, and is moving towards more of like a, I'm going to just call it like the Netflix of games. Like it seems like they're like, oh, here's our Game Pass. It's a service. You pay for that subscription, and then you get access to a bunch of these games.
Yeah.
And So what do you think about that idea? As like, if you're Microsoft and you're competing, well, at least up until this point, have been competing with the PlayStation 5, and you or not PlayStation, but Sony, and you probably won the 360 and PS3 battle. You probably won that one. You definitely lost the PS4 and Xbox One. Xbox One
The
battle.
Xbox One, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So changing direction going forward, like how what do you think? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's just to be seen, to be determined? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Just from like a super outsider perspective, because I don't really follow games too closely. I just, like I said, I've said before, I just got back into them this year.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like they're sort of somebody's telling them this is the future. They're seeing the writing on the wall in terms of what is moving people, like what subscriptions are, like what is important. And for them, it seems like that subscription is the most important thing to get that money going and to have stuff to have new content every month or something, right? That new
Mm-hmm.
IP, so that you can say, oh, what'd you pick up? Oh, the new Xbox game, right? The new Xbox Skyrim game, right? Kind of like Netflix. Like, oh, what are you watching? Oh, the new Xbox or the new Netflix show, the new Netflix movie, right? To be in the conversation, to drive those subscriptions. And I think it'll also make it sort of so that people keep coming back.
Right.
Excuse me. They'll keep coming back and they don't have to, buy like 2 games and then be like, well, that's it for my game budget this month or these few months. I'll be back later, right? They can just keep coming back to it. So I think that the transition just means that this means that they're on board with that full transition to doing, subscription, just software online. Yeah.
So, so my issue with this idea, right, is that, like, to me it seems like they're kind of going for. Also, this has been a thing that's been happening with games in general. Like, games have battle passes now, which is what they're, like, kind of just generally called, because that's what Fortnite called them when they first did it. I feel like that's where it got popular, at least. Which is that, like, instead of selling you DLC, like Call of Duty used to be like, here's your DLC for, like, your first map pack, you pay $15 for it, you pay $15 for your next map pack. So, like, at the end of the day, you're spending, like, $100. So what they've done instead now is they've said, okay, we're not doing that anymore. We'll give you a bunch of free content, but we'll give you this, like, this thing to work towards. And basically the only way to work towards it is to put in time or spend money. And we'll put, like, 100 tiers in it. You'll work through those tiers. You'll see stuff. We'll let you see all of it. You know what I mean? We'll let you see what's at 90. Because let's say you don't have time. You're like, maybe I want to spend a little money to get the stuff that's at 90. So it's basically just like I guess they've obviously figured out that it's more profitable to, instead of hitting people for $15 at a time and making people feel like, I already paid $60 for this, why am I paying $15? To, like, get people to continuously be like, oh, it's just $1, or oh, it's just $2. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just more profitable to do it that way. The reason why I'm not sure, realistically, if this is a viable business model going forward for Microsoft's consoles. So, like, realistically, when I say I don't know if it's viable, they can just make it work. Like they could just lose money and Microsoft be like, we have enough money in the bank, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like if they didn't want it to fail, it just would. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, they could just keep funneling money into this garbage because they have so much. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, if Amazon decided to make something and it flopped, if they really were like, fuck it, we're just going to keep going, like, they could just keep putting more money into it. And it'd be like, everyone knows it sucks, but it doesn't matter. It's still going. Right. So Microsoft could do that. But, like, if we're trying to look at it as its own division, right? Like, if we're trying to say, like, Microsoft's gaming is different from, Microsoft as a whole, and you want this subdivision to be profitable, like, going with Netflix as a model, basically, do you think that's a fair comparison?
Yes,
like,
yes,
you pay for the subscription and you have access to all of this, and it's not all just our stuff, it's everybody's stuff.
Yeah, and kind of like how you were saying, you were like, oh, people will be like, oh, it's only $2 or $3, because I have the pass. But I think it's going to be even more than that, where people are going to say, I got this for free. It's free on whatever.
It's free.
Because I hear people talk about that.
I think it is free if you pay for the Game Pass, and I think the Game Pass is $15 a month.
Right. Yeah. But it's kind of like how people, when you ask people like, oh, have you seen that thing? Or you should watch this show. And they'll be like, oh, what is it on? It's like, oh, you don't have to pay. It's free on Netflix. But you pay for Netflix every month. You pay like
Right.
$15 or 17 or whatever. So, it's like, it'll be like that where you are paying for it. But I think that sort of elimination of that barrier is going to get people to be like, oh yeah, sure, I'll pay you. Like, for like on
Here,
the PS4, I pay however much to play online, right? And
right.
then every month they're like, here's these free games, and I'm like, oh cool, they're free, but I fucking pay for them every few months when I pay for the chance to play
Right.
online. And I know it's paying for online, but I'm paying for something and I'm getting it as part of it, so it's not
Right.
free. I'm paying for it. It's
Right.
it's
It's
just
like when you
part of it.
buy something, buy one, get one free. It's like I didn't really get one free. I just paid half price for both.
Paid half for two, right?
Right.
Exactly.
So, with that being said, I think there's a very obvious difference, right? Which is that if you want to watch Netflix, it's a $15 subscription, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are you going to watch it on? Your TV.
Right.
How is it getting to your TV? The answer, at most expensive, is a console. But if we're not talking about that, let's say you're like, I don't know if I have the money. Like, I don't know if I want to invest money in like a PS4 or whatever.
Right. I just
It's
get a
like
Roku.
it's like a $20 Roku box.
Right.
The Xbox Game Pass is like barrier for entry. It's like, oh, I want to play the Game Pass. How much is it?
And
$15. It's like, well, you need a TV, like, so whatever the cost of a TV is, but that's still applicable in Netflix. You know what I mean? You need the cost of the TV. The difference comes down to the $20 Roku box or the $400 console. Like, I think the idea of the subscription, I think that works when the barrier of entry is so low. Like, the reason it works for Netflix, and also, it hasn't always worked for Netflix. There have been times where people are like, Netflix is not looking so hot right now. And Netflix is like, we'll double down on original content. You know what I mean? Like, we can put out stuff that is only here and will get people to keep coming back to us and not just canceling until their favorite show comes back on. You know what I mean? They have such an influx of their own content. And that's another thing. It seems like it's much easier and much cheaper to put a Netflix original show together than to develop and create your own game and hope it's good.
Especially like a big AAA one, right?
Right.
Like
because
you can,
people have
like,
already been talking about how the AAA model is just not profitable, and that's why we have these microtransactions anyways.
Yeah.
So it's
sort
like
of make up for it. Yeah.
So it's like all these things. I'm just like, this idea is great in theory. You know what a good example of? And they brought it up in the article. They said that if accounting for some $5 and $1 limited time signups, and the subscribers are $15 premium ultimate subscription for the Game Pass, that's more than $1 billion annual subscription revenue. And then they say like that's more than 3 times what Fortnite made last year. The thing is Fortnite made their game once, and it has since just added little bits here and there, which is wildly cheaper than making a whole nother game. And you know what I mean? Like, we're talking again about first of all, Fortnite's free. And then like we're talking about like they made the game once and then they've just been profiting super immensely off this one thing. And you're like, we can make 3 times that. It's like, yeah, but you have to make fucking 30 games for your Game Pass. Pay the ones that you didn't make. Like, if EA makes a game, if EA makes Madden and you want it on your Game Pass, you're gonna have to pay EA to put it on there, because obviously they're not just going to give it to you for free and lose out on sales. So it's like, this is not comparable. Like,
yeah, but I do think it's sort of like kind of like the thinking behind blockbuster movie making. But then also I think it's much harder to come up with a game that hits the zeitgeist quite like Fortnite. But going back to the blockbuster movies, the reason that most studios, instead of making a bunch of little ones, even something as small like a Blumhouse movie that's $5 million that ends up making 30 and you make up 25, is that they would rather do 200 million because that's guaranteed to make 400 million. And so yes, it costs more, or maybe even let's say 300, it makes 300 million, and costs 200, you get 100 million compared to making a bunch of little ones that make a little bit of profit, but they don't end up in totaling the whole profit. But then what you run into is that all you have is just the big budget movies. And then if a couple of them fail, they drag down studios with them. Whereas before, if a couple movies failed from a studio, it took basically like a consistent streak of shitty movies to sink something. But now, if a big one shits the bed hard enough, it drags down a whole studio with them.
right, but and then on top of that, I don't know, but I feel like the $15 subscription is still making out like it's still a cheaper, less profit on return. Like less money in
Hmm.
return than a big blockbuster. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I think your margins are so small with stuff like that. And on top of that, like just like I said, Netflix needed the Netflix originals to like really come back. Well, not come back because it was never like dead, but there were definitely times where they looked at the numbers and they're like, "We got to figure something out. This spreadsheet's looking a little rough."
Yeah.
Like the thing is that they have acquired the studio, and here's what I'm gonna say: like Skyrim was very good. There hasn't been another Elder Scrolls since then,
Hmm.
so that's a long fucking time. And people kind of got wore out on Skyrim when they made 8 fucking versions of it. And
Hmm.
then Fallout, Fallout 4 was okay. It was good, but it wasn't as good as the previous ones in my
There's
opinion.
3. Yeah.
And then Fallout 76 was the most atrocious shit. That shit bombed so fucking hard. And the Elder Scrolls Online game that came out after fucking Elder Scrolls Skyrim also bombed. Like it did so poorly on release. So like you acquired this big studio, but the thing is like all your first party games, all your Xbox originals, what I'm gonna
Hmm.
call them, like are kind of shit in the bed. Like Halo is your most like fuck it, dude. We'll just throw a Halo. Halo is their Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like fuck it, dog. I
Yeah.
don't care. Just throw one out. We'll make some money. Like, but
Yeah,
the
it's
thing
like the
is,
crown jewel. Like I
but the
think
thing
that
is the
that is like 1, and then Gears is like B
right. But
or
the
2.
thing is that their last 2 Halo games have not been good. People because it's a
Hmm.
new studio. People have been shitting on the people that are making it. Like it
Yeah.
has not. They maybe they're not bad, and obviously somebody's going to be like, no, they're great. But I'm telling you, they're not as good as 1 through 3, and that's just the facts. So
Yeah.
it's like you doing all this. That's the thing. You know what's funny? I think PlayStation could pull this off. Uncharted is unbelievably great. The Last of Us is unbelievably great. Marvel Spider-Man is great for what it is. Like
Hmm. God of
every
War.
God of War is fucking perfect. Every single IP they make that is their property, it does so much better than all of Xbox's properties.
Yeah.
Like
I
it's
do feel like in terms of comparisons, PlayStation's kind of like Marvel, and this is more like DC. Like they're
right.
like, well, they had like they had a couple hits. Wonder Woman's good. What's it? The Shazam. It's well, but no, there's no end game, right? There is no massive God of War, right?
Right. And so it's like I don't know. The thing is like I said, Microsoft has enough money. It won't fail. You know what I mean? Like they
Right.
will abandon it before it quote unquote fails. Like it'll be hemorrhaging money, and they'll just slowly like just phase it out before it like is gonna cause any real damage. But
Yeah.
like it'll be interesting to see how it works. I don't know how this goes as a company. Like Nintendo is the most out there fucking company in terms of like business model, but they're still doing like regular games. You know what I mean? Like we'll
Right.
make our
Right.
consoles wonky as shit, but like we'll still charge you $60 for the game and have all of the games that are strictly ours be the most amazing thing you've ever heard of. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
Mario, Legend of Zelda, Donkey Kong, like all of them are just fucking great. Mario,
Yeah.
dude, they turned Mario from just regular ass Mario to Mario Kart, Mario Party, like 3D Mario, 2D Mario,
Paper. Yeah.
make your own Mario. We have Super Mario Maker, bro. Like they've gone so hard on that because it's perfect. They nailed it the best anyone's ever nailed something. And
That's
it's
the
like,
sone. We got to make Halo Party.
yo,
You
Halo
play as.
Party. Fuck, bro. Man, yo, Halo Kart, Halo Party. Fuck, god damn it. I dropped my phone.
Other
Fuck.
other the in the online games for like reach and shit, I've seen plenty of videos where people do like races or they'll do like wacky game versions of the game. So
Oh,
it's already out there.
absolutely. But like it's still not people could probably do a Mario Kart in another Mario, but they're like, fuck it, we'll make our own game. And it was just great. Like everyone was like, fuck it,
Yeah.
dog, we're in. Um,
Mario Kart, that's another one that has still been going. So like Sydney bought a Switch and she bought Mario Kart,
mhm.
and I looked at the box. I was like, "This is 8, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "This was the game that I was playing my senior year of college. That was 5 years ago. Like you're
Right.
still buying it at like retail. Like same thing with like I think people will be buying Breath of the Wild at $60 for a long, long time."
Right. The the Mario Kart one's a little more insane to me because, like, realistically, it's still just like the same tracks. I'm sure they've added some, but like, at least Breath of the Wild is a very unique experience. You know what I mean? Like, you're not getting Breath of the Wild in any other game or Breath of the Wild in an older version of the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I can't imagine Mario Kart 8 for your Switch is much different than Mario Kart 8 for, I think it came out on the Wii U.
Or the Wii U or whatever.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's that much different, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is crazy. So yeah, I'm just interested to see how it works as like a service. And as opposed to like just the regular console model. And maybe that's what'll happen is like if it works, then you'll have each console will have its own distinct thing. Like when it started at GameCube, Xbox, and PlayStation 2, like they all seemed like they were kind of trying to do the same thing, right? They were just trying to be the best game console.
Yeah.
But if it turns out that like Xbox is like your service kind of gaming, you know what I mean? That you just pay this money and we'll give you whatever games for free, and you know some of them will be just ours, blah blah blah. And then Nintendo's your wonky fucking nonsense. That like I literally can't come up with anything better than wonky nonsense because like their next controller, I'm trying to think of what their next controller is gonna be. Because it's going to be the most ridiculous shit. Bro, you're going to use your elbows. So,
you're going back to the joystick.
No, Doug, you have to use it, you're going to have a chair with armrests. And, like, it's just going to be an overlay that goes over the armrest. And you just use your fucking elbows and fingertips and shit on it. Yeah. It's going to be the most ridiculous thing ever. And then PlayStation will just be, like, the best version of what a traditional console would be. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That would be cool if that's what it ended up being, just so everything has a unique identity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, do you have anything else to add to it? I know I kind of took over that segment.
No, it's fine. I mean, I don't really have much experience to it, and as I mentioned before, I don't see myself getting a console not within the next 12 months at least. Maybe at the end of next year, toward like the holidays next year. But I've been good with my 4, and I have plenty of games to go. So I'm much more distant, or I'm not quite as in touch with the industry, or like sort of the need to get a new one. So
right,
yeah, it's more like a bypass or a bystander's thoughts on it.
Right. So 3 quick things that I just thought of before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
1, I did forget to mention that Xbox's best exclusive is straight up Forza. It shits on Gran Turismo, at least until there's a new Gran Turismo coming out. I'm gonna try it, but like, up until at least this point, Forza is just straight up better, and I don't care what anyone says. It's just fucking... It shits all over Gran Turismo. It's the only thing I missed about not having an Xbox this generation, is Forza. Okay, there was 1. 2, I forgot what 2 was, but 3 is that I dropped my phone just a second ago, and I've been living life on the edge, bro. So... this past weekend, my phone was acting funny on the touchscreen, so I took the case off, right? Because I was like, maybe something's wedged in there. Because the Note 10 screen, like the touchscreen rolls down on the sides a little bit. So it's like, maybe something's wedged in this corner, that's what's causing the touch not to work right. So I took the case off, wiped it down, restarted it, everything was good. And then I didn't put the case back on. And then I had a screen protector on it, though, so it's like I'm at least covered there. But then, yesterday... I felt the very corner of the screen protector starting to fold a little bit, and I like just kept fidgeting with it. It kept getting a little worse. I was like, "Fuck it!" I just ripped the screen protector off. So I'm using a phone with no case, no screen protector, and it. Do you usually have an iPhone?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, so I haven't had any of the new ones, but I will say that it also works with the iPhone, which is that your phone has never felt better than when it's out of its case.
Oh yeah,
am I right?
It's like smooth,
oh my god, this is exactly how it's supposed to be used.
It's kind of like holding a shiny knife, where you're like, whoa, like, if I drop this, man, like, but it feels so nice. Like,
if I drop this, like, I really fuck my foot up.
Yeah, when you like roll your finger over the edge of a knife, you just hear that.
Yeah,
it's like that.
Yeah, so that's how I've been living my life for this week. Like, no screen protector, no case. I've like done way better at work about not pulling it out because I'm so scared because I've been dropping it a lot at work. So like, since I've taken the case off, I haven't dropped it once because it's been almost exclusively in my pocket at work. So it's really up to my productivity. But yeah, so I've been living life, and I dropped it just now, and it hit the stand that the mic is sitting on, and for a split second I was like, oh no, please.
You're like, this is it. I'm sorry, Case.
Oh God! All right, that was it. I really do have no idea what my second point was. That shit's gone. But that's the episode. Episode 23. If you want to reach me, you can reach me at tmoneybags on Instagram and Twitter.
And I'm at evercastro92 on Instagram.
If you want to reach the podcast directly, you can check us at diffanimalspod on Instagram and Twitter, and then you can email us directly at differentanimalspodcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
All right, stay safe, stay entertained. Just going to throw it out there that as of the time of recording, Thursday, October 15th, I'm going to be voting tomorrow early. So, maybe make a plan, everyone that hears this eventually, to get out and vote.
Yes. You should be, by the time you hear this, you should have about a week left. It goes from the 15th to the 31st. And then, of course, you can go on Election Day, if you want to do that. But I think voting early is better. And, you get to check it, and you also don't have to wait as long. And you can kind of...
And especially in these times,
yes.
It'd be better to not be in a giant crowd of people waiting on Election Day to vote.
Right, exactly.
So, stay safe, stay entertained, and we will catch you guys next week.
See you guys.
Peace. Oh.
Yeah?
In honor of dropping the Jordan number episode 23, nobody can tell me where I'm heading, but I feel like Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen at my wedding. That's motherfucking bars!